Guys, so Sunday night, hope everyone's had a good weekend. I didn't do a video on my small account on Friday because I didn't trade anything. I actually didn't trade all last week. A few people know that I mostly just focused on building watch lists and following them throughout the day. The week before I had 50% accuracy, but I ended up in the red because my profit loss and my risk management wasn't as tight as it should have been. So I took the time this week. I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on watching stocks, building a watch list, and learning more from there of how to find a good play the night before, and then see what happens with it the next day. You're not always going to be right. You're going to find, you might build a watch list of 10 stocks, and then it dwindles down to 5, and then 3, and then 2, and then 1 is a good one, or you might find five ones that run the next day. But the important part is getting comfortable and used to building a watch list and seeing it through the next day, and really being focused on the prices and the support levels and the resistance levels. If you get a catalyst, that's amazing. But really paying attention to the stock, not just looking at the number of the share price, really like finding out what it looks like on the chart and figuring out where a good entry and a good exit would be to hopefully take some profits. So I want to start by saying I believe there's a few different types of watch lists. When I talk to different people, they say, oh yeah, I'm going to put that on watch. Yeah, it's on my watch list already. And then when I look at other very successful traders, they talk about, okay, I'm going to build my watch list. And then the next day, they talk about, I'm going to build my watch list. And they keep saying, I'm going to build. So at first, I don't know, a few months ago, I thought, okay, well, they're just adding and adding and adding. So that's what I started doing. So what I think the first basic watch list is essentially a passive watch list. It's a watch list that you find stocks that you like, or you heard about them, it's a hot stock or has been a hot stock, or maybe they're in the sector that you like, or it's a new stock in that sector. So you add them to a watch list. And it's very passive. It just sits there. You might look at it every day, you might go through it, but really it's just tickers with a bunch of numbers until you click on them and open them up and start to really look into all the details and maybe open up the news and read about the news. Really it's just, ACB 228, and this is what happened on Friday, and this is the volume that came in. So basic watch list. This is for the MJ sector in Canada. I think there's a couple other random ones in here too. But for the most part, this is, all of the MJ stocks that I've heard about or I'm familiar with or I like or I dislike or whatever it is. I put them on this watch list, this passive watch list, and they just sit here. I come and check them from time to time. Sometimes I add to them. Sometimes I pull things off them when I feel that they're just completely out of play. For the most part, this is just a basic passive watch list. And this will run for, forever. I'll leave this year. I have a few more. I got one for the U.S. sector. These are all U.S. kind of, OTC stocks. I don't play any of them, but I have them there to just keep an eye on them, and I watch them. There's some other ones in here that I didn't build. These were just ones from QuoteStream. So then I like to get on to my next watch list, which I find is the active watch list, this is my actual up every day. I have an eye on it. This is always interchanging for the most part. There are some major plays on here that I leave because they help me give me an idea of what's going on in the sector that they're a part of. So, and some of them, don't get concerned. The wheat sector's here, but I got UR in there. I don't really have a place for space, so I just threw it in there with weed because this was actually the first one I started with. I started with the wheat sector. This was this big. I've always kept wheat on there. I've always kept ACB on there. I've always kept EMC and Afira because those are the ones that I feel are the biggest players in the wheat sector. I have a few other ones on here. I'm holding position in EMH. I'm holding position in RVV. Obviously, MMJ is talk of the group. CHV is talk of the group, so I have those ones on there. MJN is a talk of the group. I also have some friends in there that have some, some good positions. So I like to keep an eye on these stocks. It helps me give a good understanding of what's going on in the market, and it's, I can open one up and I can start to, figure out a chart and see where some resistance or support levels are, and maybe mark it up, or I'll move it over to Questrade and I'll get a little more serious with it. But I got my drilling, oil, and gold down here. These are mostly economy stuff, so commodities. SG used to be mining. Maybe it's weed now. We don't know. We're going to find out. It's been halted forever. 90 cents. Made a play on it at 54 to 56. You know, I got the golds down here, and then Jordan turned me onto these Labu and Lab Ds. Still, I think they're biotech or pharma or something. I don't know. These play off. Oh, Lab D. Anyways, these are all opposites, right? Inverses. So DST and NUGT play inverse from each other. JNUG and JDST. You know, you're familiar with JNUG. It's one of my favorite stocks. Then I go over here. These are some more. I got the shipping, right? DRIOS. This is all dry bulk shipping. Top, Sino ship, S Star Bulk, EC, Diana container ships. This whole sector pretty much moves in unison together. If one starts moving high, the others just follow. So it's a great sector to play. Obviously, you can get trapped in there. I have had a loss on DRIOS. You know, I'm not going to cry over spilt milk, but it happens. And I was unfamiliar with the stock at the time, but now I know, and I'm looking at these low prices, so I'm thinking, all right, if one of these starts to move one day at $1.16, well, I could jump in and make a little play, but I know it's not an overnight hold. It's an in and out, quick 10 cent, 20 cent, maybe 30 cent move. So these are former runners. I was in Warrior chat room for 3 months trading with Ross and those guys and just learning from them, and these are a lot of stocks that I picked up that they have played in the past. These are also some other ones that I found. You know, I found HTGM the other day, and this is kind of what sparked me to make a stock list video today, or a watch list videos. That some people were messaging me and saying, hey, you know, how do you make your watch lists, and you know, where do you get your information from? So, you know, I found HTGM. I didn't play it, you know. Am I an idiot for not playing it? Well, I mean, in my mind, I wasn't playing stocks last week. I was building watch lists. So I built the watch list, and here we go. This thing took off, lift off. Once I got into this higher price point, and it was over $6, kind of gets out of what I want to play because I'm just trading off a small account. So it can only take a little bit of size, and if it took a wrong turn, well, you know, that would gobble up my account pretty quick. So yeah, I should have played it a little lower here, but you know, I'm not going to cry over it. These moves happen all the time, right? These big moves have happened, you know, over and over and over again on some of these stocks. That's why they're called former runners, right? Let's look at ETRM. There you go. There's a huge move that happened early January, right? So this stock's on watch because maybe it'll happen again. Even there was a big move. That was a low of $2.96 and it closed at $6.20. So there's a $3 move in a single day. These stocks get moved by catalysts. They have low floats. I don't have a float count for them, but I can usually tell a low float. You know, if it's under 10 million shares outstanding, I know that it's a low float stock. So, or even under 20 mil, I'll add it on my watch to the former runner. It's made a big move. Just starting to build a mining list here and a biotech. So these ones are just kind of coming along as I hear stuff get shouted out in Rocket Group or whatnot. So that's my active watch list. We talked about the passive watch list. This is my active one. This one's always up on my computer on one screen in some way or another. And then my nightly watch list. So I'll go in at night after the market's closed, after the after hours is closed. I'll set up after hours here. I'll look in the NASDAQ. And I'll start with percent gainers. I'll look for percent gainers. So what made the biggest move after hours? And I'll go through, and I don't want to find something that moved 7% on 91 shares. That just doesn't, you know, that doesn't excite me. There was no volume, there was no audience. Why did it move 7%? Why did it move, you know, it moved 9 cents on 91 shares? So I don't know. I don't always understand why it does that on some stocks. So I'm looking for volume. So obviously this is organized highest to lowest. So highest is 11%. Anything lower than a 4% move, I'm not too interested in. So above 4%. So there's two ways to do it. You can go down to 4% and work your way up. And I just look on the volume side. Stay on the volume side. I'm looking for like 20,000 and over. And if it's 20,000 over, then I'll look at the share price and see if it's got something in the range that I like. I like $1 to $4 stocks. You know, even $6, up to $6, depending on if I'm familiar with the name or whatnot. So any 17,000 shares after hours, you know, 23 cents was the share price. So this was after hours on Friday. This is old, so you know, after hours Friday, there's not a lot of action, but we saw some big action. You know, Wednesday night, Thursday night. I was seeing, you know, upwards of 1 million shares traded after hours. So that catches my attention, and I make notes of it. I'll write down the share price. First, I'll I'll take the stock, the ticker, let's say any, for example. I'll go over to Questrade and I'll pull it up. Sphere Corp. I always double check, so down here I can still see Sphere Corp because sometimes the tickers are different. And then I'll zoom out and I'll see what it's done. So these shaded areas are after hours and pre-market, and so right there I can see, okay, it made a little bump here after hours, but that was it. There was no other continuation. This thing's had a massive sell-off. They must have had bad news or something on Friday, and just dumped this share price 10 cents on a 30-cent stock. So it's like what, 30%, something like that. So quite a big dump it had on Friday. So that's not a good example. Let's try and find something else. So, tell you what, we'll go after hours. We'll go to dollar gainers. So these are the stocks that move the most. Actually, you know what? We'll go to volume actives, even better. Volume actives will give you red or green. It could be positive, could be negative. So a little harder to sift through because you got to look at all the reds, you got to look at the greens, what broke out even. But you can see there was a lot of volume that traded after hours on Friday. So when I do this, then I'll scroll down and I'll just look for percentage because it's organized by highest volume to lowest volume. So Matt, but $25 share price, so I won't look at that. Here, Cat B, 123,000 shares, 2%. I'll go over here, I look, whoa, huge gap down. $4 down to $1.20 over, what was that from? That was from a Tuesday to a Wednesday. Man, that would have sucked to hold overnight. But look, here we go. Tried to gap fill and come back up here March 9th to March 10th. It wasn't a lot, but it made a move. And then we see down here, it had a move on Friday. It was coming up green. And then it's gapping up. It closed Friday's session at $1.47. But we see the bids in the last was $1.50. I will then go over to Questrade, open it up, Cat B, and we'll see what it looked like going in after hours. So it had a big spike. Could be a short squeeze. I don't know. But it started moving up into after hours, and then it fell flat, obviously, because it was Friday. So, Cat B made a move. Scroll out a little bit and see what it's done over the last week. It looks like it was in a downtrend, right? And then Friday, it looks like it's tried to make a push for an uptrend. But I look at previous days. So here we have the 21st. It started climbing into after hours. It came up, but then it gapped down, and then it sold off Thursday, and then it kept going down. So similar move to it climbing into after hours here. Obviously, the big spike is a little different, but then it kind of went flat. So Monday we'll have a look at it. We'll keep it on watch. But I'm not going to get my hopes up because if I look back here, climbed up into after hours again, climbed up into pre-market, and then sold off instantly. So climbed up, sold off into after hours. So this thing kind of has a tendency of making a play towards the end of the day. But you know what? I may make some notes, and maybe I'll keep an eye on watch for the future for it doing that. I already think this is on a former runners list. Cat B. No, it's not. So I'm going to add Cat B down here, and I will make some notes on my book, my day planner, and I'll mark up a chart for it. And I'll watch it in the pre-market in the morning, and maybe there's a plan. It's a $1.47 stock, so pretty cost-effective to grab 200, 300 shares and maybe see a little move. 11% it made on Friday, so that's generally how I do it. I will also have a look at the news. So I'll pull up the news. The 24th was the Thursday, I believe. Or was the 24th of Friday? 24th was the Friday, so okay. So what did it have on? So rating reiterated, rating boosted to buy by Zacks, earns buy rating from Wainwright. So 1, 2, 3, 4 people are saying a buy, but on the 22nd, Zacks investment research. So people are upgrading this to buy, and they have been for That's all the news on this. Oh, somebody in the 18th, somebody put an $11 price target on it. So obviously something's going on with it. Don't always, take all these buy ratings and TD immediate buy or strong sell. Take that all with a grain of salt, because you look at HTGM, made its big move, over 2 days, and then on the second day you see a buy rating from TD Bank, and I'd say TD, you're a little bit behind the curve there if you're calling out a stock that just made like a 300% move in 2 days. There we go, $1.95 up to $13.25. So I'm not good at percentage off the top of my head, but anybody can tell that's an ass load of percent. So anyways, that's how I build my watches. I am going to actively trade this week. I'm going to go based off risk versus reward. I had a really good success with building my watch list last week, and going off of previous support and resistance levels in the pre-market and on the daily charts, because the daily chart is super important. This one was the biggest one that just blew me away the other day. So open up the 6 month of HTGM, and anybody can laugh at technical analysis all they want and say, oh yeah, they're just lines on the chart. But you explain to me why HTGM made a 2-day run and came up and tapped this exact same resistance that it hit 2 years ago on September 21st and pulled right back down. So why did this stock move all the way up into this exact same resistance level and then pull all the way back down? And it actually ended up leveling off right here, where it kind of came up, and it had a little bit of trouble here, but then it came and sold off and went down and fell down into the dollars, and that was it. It pretty much stayed dormant down here. It made a couple of moves, $2 up to $4, $2.46 up to $4.38. Made a few moves here, but for the most part, made one more move, and then it curled up and then launched. So what is this stock going to do on Monday? I have no idea. But this action, this coming up here, correlating with this, just kind of makes me think, all right, these stocks respect support and resistance. So risk versus reward, I'm going to set some support and resistance levels based on pre-market and daily, and that's what I'm going to buy off of. If I see it curling up and it looks like it's going to break out, I'm going to buy it with a 10-cent stop loss, and if it breaks out, it does, I'm going to take my profits, and if it doesn't, well, it's breakout or bailout. I'll take my licks, take my 10-cent per share loss, and move on to the next one. So I'm going to cry over spilled milk. I'm just going to trade, and I'm going to try and keep my emotions under wrap, and keep trying to build quality watch lists that I see are going to be intraday plays the next day. So, all right, we'll have a chat tomorrow. Whoever wants to chat, maybe ask some questions, but this is what I got for now, and see you guys tomorrow in the chat rooms.